Bună dimineața. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, the members of the jury, for accepting to drink their morning coffee with us and with the press. I'm Renata Roca Rosenberg. I'm head of communication for Transylvania Film Festival, and I'm gonna just be here to help you take advantage of this hour that we have together with our wonderful jury. Welcome, for most of you, welcome back, because you are all friends of the festival. I will introduce you, even though I'm pretty sure everybody read about you. I will start with our wonderful lady members. Anita, film producer, less than 20 years, less than 2 decades in the field, but still a wonderful portfolio. You have over 20 movies that you produce or co-produce with a lot of awards. Gronia, welcome, kind of a fellow, as she's the director of the film festival in Dublin. Everybody knows Mr. Popescu. He's also a TIFF winner last year. Congratulations again. Also an old friend of the festival. Denis Coté, bienvenue. Good morning. Denis is a director, and we had the chance to present his movies during the years in our festivals with a wonderful feedback from the Romanian public and everyone included, and a veteran. This is how they introduce you in the Variety I just read last night. A veteran of a British film industry, feeling very comfortable here because you started as a journalist, so you've been both sides, so you'll help your colleagues if needed. Mike Godridge, such a long career, started as a journalist and film critic, right? Right now you are the artistic director of a very young festival in China. It's the film festival in, I think it's quite a challenge.
Yeah, we're on year 4, so it's quite new.
Yeah, we are 18, so if you need any insight, kidding, you don't need, that's for sure. Okay, before I will allow my colleagues to start with their question, I'm already thinking, when you accept the role to be a member in a jury, and you have already had this experience several times, I guess all of you, is it a certain set of mind that you're entering? How do you approach this role? Because it's quite full of responsibilities, I guess. Do you have fears of not making mistakes? Do you already set your mind to look for something in what you're gonna see? How do you approach this role? Because you're gonna judge, even if it's a very harsh word to judge a movie, this is pretty much what you're gonna do. So if you can share a little bit how you're getting into it, and if you have such an expectation for this year and for your role here in Cluj-Napoca. Who would like to start? Okay. Gronia?
I suppose from my point of view, I spend all year watching and judging films. So what's really interesting for me is I try, when I'm on a jury, to see films fresh, to try and see them without too much knowledge, to watch them as much as I can with an audience. And I really, really like the part of being part of a jury. I really like that, because juries are made up of some people you know, some people you don't know, and because there's a prize at the end, there's always a kind of much more engaged type of debate. There's a lot more discussion, there's a lot more opportunity for debates over dinners or drinks or whatever, where you're kind of passionately arguing for one film over another. So it's a much more heightened form of watching films. A lot of the times when you're in festivals, you can, go to a film and maybe stay 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but when you're on a jury, there's an extra level of responsibility. So you watch films in a particular way, and I really like that. And I like Mihai's programming, so I'm always interested in seeing what type of program he brings. So that's my rationale.
How do a director approach it?
Well, in my case, I was a film critic from 1995 to 2005, so I used to share a lot of ideas about films and fight with people in my old days. And then I started making films, and this is a much more solitary project, and I can watch films and I don't have to share my opinion with anybody. So when I make a jury, finally I can concentrate a lot more and, you know, share thoughts about films with other people. But the other thing for me that is very interesting is I'm being judged myself when I world premiere a film, let's say in a big festival and I'm in competition. And most directors will be completely stressed about this being judged thing. But when you do a jury, you can listen how people talk about the films we make. And that's why I'm doing this jury I'm on observation mode, and I know how juries talk about other people's films. So when I make mine, I'm not as stressed as I used to be when I premiere a film. And when I read a bad review or a good review, I always put things in perspective, and that's because I do juries. And yeah, so it's like I do juries to not take myself too seriously when I'm making a film and I'm being judged. So when I'm in a competition and I don't win anything, I know how subjective jury work can be, you know. So yeah.
Anita?
I wanted to come here because, as Nani told, I'm mostly at the other side. I'm producer, and I don't have an opportunity to watch so many films as Grania do. But I wanted to come here because I know that you're having great competition and that Transylvania is the biggest festival in Romania. And for example, before this festival, while I was in Cannes, where I have just opportunity to watch one film. So it's a pleasure to be in a jury and to watch all of these great films and to discuss with other members of the jury about each film. I enjoy to watch movies with the audience. I don't like links when I'm in jury because we always want to feel what audience feel after every screening. So we're happy to have every screening in Victoria Cinema.
Mr. Popescu, last year you've been in San Sebastian as a member of a jury. Do you think it's going to be different, or is it pretty much the same vibe, whatever the festival, whatever the selection?
Hello. The vibe is nice. We are here with nice people. I think it's. I always think that a festival is interesting. If you have interesting films to see, it's the case here. I like to see movies without reading reviews before. I like the freshness of a different approach. I like emotion. I like to feel something when I see a movie. I think this is the way that a jury should watch films. Well, the ideal way. In terms of comparison between San Sebastian and Cluj, each festival is different. Each festival has its own characteristics. Cluj, it's something. It's different because I think that than other festivals because I think everybody's relaxed here. It's a relaxed vibe. You don't feel like you have a schedule. We do, of course, but not as in other festivals where everything is more rigorous, more military. Here is more relaxed. We go to swimming pools at 5 a.m. We do a lot of sports.
Keep on.
Yeah. Every morning.
Really?
Sauna at 6, breakfast at 7 now. I think the important thing is that one of the important things would be that the jury understand each other. And like Denis said, I think it's very, very important not to take ourselves very seriously.
Mike, you're watching, I guess, 10,000 movies a year because you're also working for Locarno, for Macau, and you're here to see another 10 movies that you might have seen before?
I'd seen some of them. Actually, one of them, which we watched yesterday, which was the Icelandic film, was in Cannes 2 weeks ago, and I specifically avoided it in Cannes because I knew it was here, and it got me thinking about when you're at a festival like Cannes, which is a very industry-driven festival. It's about instant response. It's about, is the film good? Will it sell? Is it good? That's all you get, Whereas this environment is much more about the audience. This is my first time in Cluj, so it's amazing to see how engaged the audiences here are, and how full the houses are, which is incredible. So watching it last night with a full house, it's a different experience. You know, it's a real audience. It's not a cynical industry audience, and you feel that energy when you're watching a film here, which I really like. And rather than having that snap decision, you get to discuss films here, which is rarer and rarer in today's world. I think we like to just kind of put online our decision about a film. We give it a B+ or 4 stars or something, and this conversation between 5 people, I think, is very healthy. So I like to keep a very open mind on juries and be persuaded that something that I didn't like may not be so bad after all.
Not hard to convince, right? If you have questions, because I have 10,000 questions, so I will go on. Yes, we do have a lot of sold out. People are really enthusiastic, but it's always that sad feelings after a festival that wonderful movies won't get the chance to have a really large distribution. Do you think we will solve this with VODs, with others? Do you think that there is, at the end of the day, at the end of a festival, can we invent a way that all those wonderful movies could really reach a larger audience? Because you're coming here, you're seeing them in the festival or in Cannes or in Berlin, whatever, and then you will just wait for a year, maybe, and maybe have the chance, especially in smaller countries with smaller networks and so on.
Your question is great, but the answer, it would be utopia to just try to give a very nice sounding answer to that. It's a dead end, you know. You have to go to festivals to see those films. As a director, I've been told many times that I make festival films.
Yeah,
Which it's very condescending, but at some point you start believing in that notion that you make festival cinema, and if you want to be, you want your work to be seen, you go to film festivals and you stay there, and you're born and you die there, you know. And it's not bad to just always be in film festival environments, because I make films for open-minded cinephiles. And either I go there and I'm appreciated in the film festival environment, or I will always complain that I don't have large-scale distribution, and I would always cry and cry and cry. So I just stay in the festival environment and I live what I have to live, you know. But just saying, oh, we need to solve this problem and try to find ways, at some point it's a utopia. Maybe some people here disagree with me, but
I hope so.
from my experience, my films play in festivals and they usually stay there.
I'm producer, so I love to have big distribution. I think that you should first have a lot of art house cinemas, because in Croatia we build a lot of art house cinemas and we put DCPs in all cinemas, and now it's better and better with these festival films, just what Denis told. So we have distributors who are specialized in some films which won awards at the festivals. We have festivals which are dedicated. And what I heard in Romania is the biggest problem that you don't have enough screening rooms. You have more multiplexes and you have less art house cinemas. But I don't see anything bad in these VOD services, because, for example, our previous movie was 2 hours and 35 minutes long. And so many sales agents told me, you should cut it. It should be a maximum 2 hours. It's a debut feature. You will never have a distribution. And then we got offer from Netflix, and Netflix bought it for the whole world rights. So VODs are good even for some art house movies. They translated in all languages. Now it's distributed in 119 countries worldwide. So I think it's opportunity also for festival movies with these VOD platforms, not just with the Netflix. There is a lot of players outside there. But I think, as I'm cinema lover, that you should work on politics to build more art house cinemas in Romania.
We're trying. When we announced the official selection for this year, our artistic director, Mihai Kirillov, he said that he tried to select those films that don't really hang on the social and political context. do you feel, because you've been, all of you, through so many festivals this year, I think you all started in Berlin and so on. Do you think that we are missing something when we set an agenda for the selection of a festival? Because everybody was saying, oh, in Berlin, all the films were about women or that, and so on and so on. Do we miss wonderful films that will never reach festivals in competition and certain awards that will help them only because we set an agenda nowadays in festivals? What if we are trying not to? At least Mihai said he tried not to. How is it working with Dublin?
Wow, it's a big question. I'm really conscious of the factors. When I started off programming, I wanted to show whatever I could, and the longer I work, the more I find that all of the barriers that are put up against, so the films that are available or the films that are not available through whatever different distribution deals or other structures. For me, I try to make it a program that I feel I can be proud of at the end of the actual festival, and ones that unfortunately I have to think in also commercial terms, the ones that I know that audiences will come to. So I find that I have certain sections that I'm making commitments to that will be new Irish work, for instance. I will try to show new work by new directors, and then I will try to find some elements that maybe are quite kind of commercial or kind of mainstream in order to satisfy press. And I divide it like that, and I know that there will be a couple of films that I know will operate that will be very hard to make a connection or to make it some kind of visibility or profile. But for me, it's harder and harder every year to try and find a special place for films that are orphans in a way, I suppose. The films that you are only putting your identity and your passion for to connect, to find audiences for. So a lot of the times I will show a film and afterwards I will be disappointed at how many people went to see it or how much press it got. But that's what festivals I think are there for in some ways, you know, is not for big audiences or maybe for big amounts of press, but for that discovery. But for me, more and more, it's harder to be as broad as we maybe started out with.
How does it work in Asia?
Well, the Macau Film Festival is in Macau, which is a very small city-state, really. It's a special administrative region of China. The population is 650,000. They have a couple of cinemas which are multiplexes and show Hollywood and big Hong Kong movies. So the challenge for us has been to develop the local audience and show them a range of international cinema that they wouldn't normally see. So what's been encouraging to me is our competition section, which is for first and second films from around the world. We've got a loyal audience already who come to these films, which is really inspiring, actually. And it shows, I think, that we can develop a tradition there of going to more challenging films than they're used to, and I think that's really exciting. In terms of setting agendas, I don't think many festivals do. I mean, Macau is all about the audience. I'm sure Dublin, you think about audience first and foremost, and so it's about creating a rich palette of cinema that people can go and see a big Hollywood studio film next to a Lav Diaz film. You know, I mean, it's festivals, I think, are about the sort of cocktail of films that you put together. I think there's only Berlin really has a political agenda that it makes very clear. Yeah. Well, yeah, that might all change.
Questions, if you have, please do.
Hello. As you all are experts in movies, could you please tell me, each and every one of you, 2 movies that you really loved and you would recommend to a friend? It doesn't matter what kind of movie or when it was made. Thanks.
Oh, So you have to say your.
What, from film history? Yes. Gosh. Grania.
Your all-time favorite movies that you would say.
Rush.
No.
Film history.
From the whole of cinema.
I like to give a very romantic answer to that.
You cannot recommend your movies.
No, it's not my style. When you're between 18 and 24, I like to say it's the tender age where you discover the film that will change your life. Doesn't have to be the best one, but there's usually a film in that period that will struck you. And I had a roommate, and now he became a director of photography, and I will always remember two films. That same night, it was video cassettes, because I'm super old. And we watched, one after the other, Andrzej Żuławski, The Most Important Thing is Love. And then we watched Pasolini's Teorema in the same night. And I will always remember that we didn't talk to each other for like 2-3 days after that. We were like in a state of shock. And I bought the giant poster of Teorema for my bedroom, and he bought the other films for his bedroom poster. And it always stayed, these two films are very, very close to me because it kind of changed my life, but it's not the best films ever made. But usually you make a very emotional connection with one film you saw when you were young. And well, I could say stuff when I was 5 or 6 years old, but I mean, my cinephile years, those would be my two choices. So try to be that, mister. Okay.
What did you say, the second one?
The first one is The Most Important Thing is Love. And the second one is Teorema.
For me, it's easy. No. But that would be fun. Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Badlands. This is a film by Terence Malick.
Maybe you can try one from the Romanian
No
cinema?
justification. No, my colleagues know that I love their movies.
I like so many movies. It's so hard to choose the two. I like from previous years. I like Scorsese's Silence a lot. It had very small distribution in Croatia. I don't know how it went in Romania and in other countries. And I liked Clint Eastwood's Mystic River. It's a very strange choice.
God, I'd forgotten about Żuławski's film, which I absolutely love. There were two VHSs that I had in college that we just watched repeatedly, which was Once Upon a Time in the West, and the other one was Bonnie and Clyde, which are films that really you can watch again and again. But there's always a genre that I think gets forgotten when people are talking about favorite films or important films, and that's comedy. And I've, been a big fan of comedy, but I watched What's Up, Doc, the Peter Bogdanovich, a couple of months ago, and it still makes me laugh the whole way through it. And I just think a film,
Wonderful film.
yeah, it's just a really funny, inventive film, and it's maybe not the best comedy, but it's definitely one of the funniest. And then just recently, I saw Parasite, which is the New Bonho film that won the Palme d'Or in Cannes, and maybe it was part of everything that I saw this year in Cannes, but it just seemed so fresh and so dynamic, and just maybe in comparison to the other films that I just saw this Cannes, I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. And so at the moment, that's my favorite new film.
I don't know. I never know how to answer this question. Lots of Hitchcock. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg is one of my all-time favorites. Andrei Rublev, Seven Samurai. Parasite in Cannes this year explodes off the screen and is very exciting. Burning from last year from South Korea as well. I don't know. Sorry. How can you do two? How can you do two? You can't.
No questions? Okay, I continue with mine, because I have... that's a silly question, but please take it seriously. What happens when you're in a jury and there is a really, really bad movie in the selection, and you really have to watch it from the beginning to the end, because you're a jury member, you can't just get out of the room and forget about it. Do you still find in yourself some resources to try to understand and approach? I mean, a really bad movie, something you really don't like, let's not call it a bad movie, something you really cannot connect with, and are you still trying, or you're just becoming humans and give up? Danny?
Well, of course, in a selection, there's going to be one or two that we really don't like. Well, in real life, you would just stop watching or just dismiss it and don't care. But what I don't know is the personalities of my other colleagues. So if I watch something that I really didn't like, I'm still taking notes in case somebody liked it. I expect everybody to hate it as much as I hated it, but I'm still taking notes if I need to use some arguments against it. So you need to consider everything, but of course we see films that we totally hate in a selection, and yeah, it's gonna happen here. It happens everywhere. The 12 films can be, so yeah.
The others are just polite and
No, I mean,
diplomatic.
I like to give the benefit of the doubt, and I'd happily enter a discourse if somebody else loved a film that I just despised. But there's always has to be a few less good films for the good films to sort of rise to the surface. And you trust also the curators of the festival program to have given you something that they think is worth being in competition. So
Hating a film is a good sign,
yeah.
because it means somebody will love it. Being completely indifferent to a film, that is worse.
Meh. Yeah. I always like to go along with a filmmaker's vision, whether it be sci-fi or comedy or very intense drama. And I feel I have a good truth meter, like if there's truthfulness in what's going on screen. But when I lose faith in the storytelling, I tend to switch off, and I think that's always a sign with me that I've lost interest in the film.
Okay. Would you say that this judging experience is also a learning experience from you? Can you take some insights with you, or you rather just keep it away? Especially if you're a director, you're trying not to, and you're true to yourself and what you believe in. You're trying not to be influenced by the fact that someone will judge you later too. How do you?
It's a humbling experience. Like the film that's gonna win here was the favorite film of only 5 human beings in the world, you know? So it's very humbling to know that if I go to a festival and I don't win anything, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it means these 3, 5, or 7 people on the jury did not agree on my film. But I should not run home and cry, you know? So when I do it, I think the same. So it's a very humbling experience. And we should not put too much importance on these award thing. It's an industry thing to give an award, but it's not necessary at all. It's not.
Still, in other terms, maybe you have got some insights from being part of a jury. Not it's humble. You're trying to keep it realistic.
Yeah, we actually fight all the time, but we're just lying now, just not letting you see that. I agree with Denis. I don't think awards are so important. Come on. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of plastic or metal. It's true, for a director it's nice for about 5 to 10 minutes until he calls the wife or a friend or someone. But other than that, yeah, it's just an opinion after all. I don't consider that films in a festival, for me, are bad or good. Are just films that I like or I don't like. I may like a film today, but in 2 months when I revisit it, or in 2 years, maybe that film actually was not so good. So it's very relative. It's all very relative. It's about what that movie tells me that particular moment, and judging the film just by maybe compare it to the other movies in competition, but just because we have to. You know, it's not really a competition. It's just watching good movies or interesting films, and then we have to decide because we have to decide, because some people took planes to get here, or cars, and someone asked us nicely to do this. It's just a game.
But I think a producer would disagree.
But
For a producer, what?
just 2 seconds. I don't want to contradict myself, but at the same time, we should not only say it's not important. It can be very important for young filmmakers to get financing for their next project, even if it's just a little piece of paper coming from the small film festivals from Uruguay. Sometimes it matters, you know, to get your next film financed. So that's why we should take our job seriously. But the whole notion of awards should not be taken that seriously. But
Exactly, because as you know, in some countries there is a point system. So if you want to fundraise for your next movie, if your previous movie got some awards, have been at some festivals, then you get more points and you get easier financing for the next movies. So sometimes for first-time directors, second-time directors, it's really changing their careers that they can easily fundraise for their next movie. So I think that awards are always important, but I agree with my colleagues, it's always the decision of 5 or 7 people. So it doesn't mean necessary that it's the best movie. I think it's a great opportunity to have film in competition, that the awards are not so important, but it helps when you want to finance your next movie.
So be happy if you win, but don't get depressed. Okay.
but some directors are very competitive and they take it very seriously. And this person on the jury, she doesn't like me, and you should, you know.
I do find it very strange. Sometimes I take a step back and look at the film industry and think, why are we making these stories that are told in different parts of the world in different ways? Why are we making them compete against each other? I think that the hardest for me is the hullabaloo around the Academy Awards that has become a sort of 6-month marathon every year. I mean, it just seems such a strange thing to compare different types of storytelling with each other and make them compete with each other when a story should exist on its own. So I do find it a bit strange, really, because film has to succeed on its own terms and is the most subjective thing in the world. Like, everybody in this room, their opinion is as valid as everybody else's. You know, it's a very strange thing that has evolved, like from Cannes to Berlin to the Academy Awards. It's very odd that we're putting storytelling in such competitive terms. But of course, it is about profile, and it is about distribution and sales and all these kind of things. But it's a bizarre thing.
We have one question from the audience, or 2 questions from the audience. I will start with Oana.
Hello, I'm Oana Vasiliu from Business Review. I have 2 questions, actually. One is regarding the fact that if it is okay to step outside the cinema hall if you don't like a movie?
Of course.
Anita disagrees.
No, because we are in jury and we have to watch it until the end.
But what if you are like public and not a jury member?
Do you have a secret timer? I mean, how much a simple viewer, simple spectator should endure something he
Don't like.
Yeah, exactly. How is it polite in terms of industry? 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
I
I'm
think life
guessing.
is short, and if you don't like it, you should do other thing. I don't know, go read a book, take a walk, meet a friend. But yeah, that's the real answer, I think. Come on, let's not kid ourselves. You don't like it, don't do it. Don't watch it. It's not for you.
It depends what you came looking for if you came to get entertained and to forget about your everyday life and stuff, you will probably stay and watch the whole film. That's why you came to watch it. Personally, I come to see a personal vision, a personal signature, something strong. And usually, after 5 minutes, I know if there's somebody behind the camera. I know if there's a signature behind the camera. And if there's nobody and I'm just stuck with a normal story with beginning, middle, and end, I'm gonna leave. And the older I get, the quicker I leave the cinema. Because I know if there's a filmmaker after 5 minutes. But here, on a jury, of course I'm gonna stay for the whole film out of politeness. But yeah.
I used to be a sales agent, and when you show films to distributors,
It's even worse.
oh my God, it's like they stay for 3 minutes, they walk out and they make a huge noise, and it's like the most explicit room full of people who are just not interested.
And it's even worse for sales agent and people in the industry. They watch 5 minutes of a film and they know it's not for their
not for them,
company.
or for their country.
They know they will never sell that film to their TV. So even if the film is good, they leave after 5 minutes. They're
And
like,
you
no,
must
black
never-
and
you-
white, too
you
slow
must
by,
n-
it's not for me.
You must never allow filmmakers into the room when distributors are watching films, because it's so insulting, because they just treat us. So
Exactly. They're making phone calls, they're going out, they're coming in.
they
And
get
when
they,
we have a
they
market
come in with a
screening-
sandwich specifically just to sit down and eat their sandwich, and then they'll leave.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember the world premiere of some of my films in Locarno. It's 3,000 seats in the main hall, and the floor is wooden. It's wood. So especially the ladies with the heels. So people would leave because your film is too slow, it's not very good for the industry, it's too arty or whatever. And people can leave like 100 at a time on a wooden floor, tuck, 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 tuck. And I had enough experience to be like, yeah, okay, I understand my film is slow, but my actors were with me and they're not as used to festivals that I am. They were crying and everything. And then we would win an award at the end of the festival. But when you're with industry people, they are there to sell your film, to buy your film, and it's for a TV. It's not about their personal taste sometimes. So they're going to leave and go do something else, another meeting or something, and it's very cruel and brutal.
And you hear the seats slap up against it when they leave. It's very demoralizing. Do you walk out of films?
Well, I wanted to, but I stayed up until the end, so.
Don't if authors are there.
But that's a great notion, leaving or not leaving, trying to stay polite or not. It's really your thing, you know. You can leave a cinema, who's going to judge you? Unless you're in some countries, I know we talked about that, in Asia, you don't leave,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
very, very, very impolite.
Yeah.
But in some other countries, it's just like bang, and it's okay. You don't have to scream that you're against the film, you just leave, it's okay, but
But how about the applauses after the movie? Are there a barometer for you as a member of a jury?
oh, no. Oh, yeah.
I think there's been some applause this week, hasn't there? Yeah.
No,
After-
I was
in the
invited. We are invited to, with our personality, to judge films. Even if 75 ladies behind me are crying, it doesn't matter if I hated it. I'm honest. It's just, oh, I have to give an award to that film because everybody was crying in the cinema. No, come on. That's just me.
We had one question from here also.
Hi, so what I wanted to ask was, you obviously have in the competition very different films, aesthetically, in terms of narrative structure, everything, and you have to award it this general award that's like best film to something that's maybe not comparable in a way. So what is the litmus test for a film to be a good film in a way? Does it go back to being subjective, the favorite film of 5 people, or are there universal criteria for a film to be considered for being the best award, the best film, to receive the best film award? Yes.
I don't know. I think you have to avoid the sort of the best possible. What am I trying to say? The film that we all compromise on. I think you have to have passion for the best film winner. Like what?
Absolutely, because sometimes jury compromise if they're having very different opinion, and then it happens that the third film gets the award because they want to compromise after 6-7 hours of discussion. So I agree with Mike. I hope that we will have a lot of passion and that we will give award to really the best film, not to compromise.
But again, all the films we've seen so far are vastly different in the way that they tell stories, the way that they use the medium. So it'll be a discussion about what we respond to, I suppose. I'm a very emotional film viewer. I like to have an emotional response to something, whether it's laughing my head off or crying my eyes out or just being viscerally taken by something, you know. Like this Bong Joon-ho film from Cannes, I was just elated by this film. It just lifted me to another place. It was the filmmaking was so exciting, and it was so original. And it was really refreshing to have that response, you know, because you get a bit cynical after a while. You see so many, I mean, especially us, Grania and I, we see so many films for the festival.
The other thing,
programming, you know?
the other thing we should not do is consider where we are, the audience here, the country, consider things that are not cinematic. Like, oh, we can't give an award to that film. Did you see how many people walked out of that film? Oh, we can't give an award to that film. It's too radical. We should not think like that. And if our choice is very surprising or very radical, we should go with it. But if we start being all vanilla on things and be like...
or because the director's just had a baby and needs the credit.
That's it. And oh, he comes from a poor country. She comes from a poor country. We should help that person. It's a $10,000 check. I heard that on juries, you know. Oh, this film doesn't need an award. It won everywhere. You always hear that sentence. And we can debate on that sentence, but at some point it should be the film. And sometimes they will program a film that is so superior to all the others, it's a bit stupid because of course we're going to take that film. But when the programming is well done, usually it's... and so far here, I think it's quite, you know, I don't see any film in the program that is, well, of course this one is better than all the others, so it should be fine.
Oh, okay, one question here.
I don't think I need. I'm very curious that here are producers and directors and the festival director. At the end, when you have to decide about the award for an actor or an actress, and you don't agree, all of you, who will fight more for an for her or his choice for giving a prize for an actor, a producer or a director? You're the festival director. You are in the middle, so
I think we all become film lovers when you're on the jury. You know, you sort of shed your role, and you're just really passionate about the way the film was made or the performance. You know, I mean,
A performance is a performance.
Yeah.
It doesn't change to my eyes than to a producer's eyes or a performance. The rest is different, but for actors and actresses, I think it's easier to decide. It's a powerful performance will always be a powerful performance.
We have another question from here.
Hi, my name is Judy from Verbs Describe Us. I'm a media partner of the festival. This is my first year, actually, here. And I wanted to ask you, should a movie be framed within a category? Because you talked about best comedy, best drama, or should it contain all the elements?
I don't know, it's very hard. I think what Grony was saying about comedy is really interesting because comedy tends to be not taken that seriously. I remember in Cannes, a few years ago, they put this Argentinian film in Wild Tales in competition, and I love Wild Tales. I think it's been, but it didn't win any awards, and it was kind of dismissed a bit, you know. But I think it was brilliant comedy. So it's very hard. You shouldn't categorize, I think. But then, having said that, you know, some comedy or animated films or family films, you know, are not taken as seriously as intense political drama, you know.
But I think industry people, we like to say that we should forget about categories, but the audience, a lot of people in the audience paying for their tickets, they want to look in the program, where is the comedy? Is there a horror film? So they want, then the label to be somewhere before they pay to go see that film. For us, it's easy to say we don't care, but like my mom, if she's going to see a film, she wants to know what it is, and she's going to read the synopsis. We don't read synopsis anymore. We just go see films because we're cinephiles. So sometimes you need a category, and sometimes you don't. So,
But that's still the best way to see a film. I mean, I agree with Constantine, but not, no, I mean, I've deliberately tried not to think about the films I'm going to watch today or tomorrow or the day after, to try and literally when the credits start, that's when you start watching the film, and you work out if it's a comedy or a drama, or that it's both at the same time, or that you like it or you dislike it, or you. The other dangerous thing is to, think about how long it is, and then think about how long it's going to be until you have lunch, or you're going to have dinner, or when you can have a drink, or if you're going to leave. Is an hour too long? Should you wait? And I quite like the idea that festivals are still where most people do that, because films are so new at festivals. You don't know that much about the reports or the awards, and you can still evaluate it on yourself, by yourself. I think there was a report in America about people needing 6 different types of contact about a film before they make a decision, which is terrifying. Whether that's a review or a trailer. I like watching a comedy which I find funny, not that I'm recalling the trailer, and that I found this funny when I saw it online, and then I saw it on in the cinema. So for me, I quite like watching things in a very pure sense, in the same way that I think that we read books. You sometimes forget reviews far quicker when you're reading a book, whereas in a film you're constantly thinking maybe about people liked it, or they thought the first bit was too fast or too slow, or
but
I don't know.
again, that's all easy to say for us because we're in the industry and we see all the films for free. But I like to think about the regular people who, they want to know how much, where is the cinema, how long is the films. We hate those questions, but people consider those things,
Is it worth my $10 to go and see
In
this
America, going to see a film is $13, and a Netflix subscription for a month is $13. So people kind of, they think about those things, and we don't. So that's why we need to. I like our position because it's very pure, and we go see what we want. But sometimes you need to think about how people think, and that's 6 things you were talking about. It's probably in these
That's part
6
of it.
things.
Just last question. I know you're here on the job, but it's something that you don't want to miss these days in Cluj with us? You made any strange plans besides swimming in the pool and having fun with each other?
I wanted to go and see Dracula's castle, but it's really far away, apparently.
It's not that. If you really want to, it's not that far away.
Okay, that's what I want to do. No, I mean, look, Transylvania has all these literary connotations, of course, but I was very excited to come here because I've been in the business for 30 years, and Cluj has this incredible reputation in that, it's developed in these 18 years, this reputation as an incredible film-loving festival with great audiences. So I'm really excited to be here.
No, I was just going to say, I was here a couple of years ago on the Romanian Days jury, and we were lucky enough to see some screenings outside in the square, and I think that's one of the best screens that I've ever seen. So I'm really excited outside of the jury duty to try and see some films outside, because with the church and the just the light and the sound in that screen, it's really special for me.
I'm the first time here, but I'm amazed with your audience. And we talked with Tudor why he decided to have a festival here. And he told us actually that he read statistics that in Cluj people are 3 times often going to cinemas than in other cities in Romania. And then in Bucharest, yeah. So it was really amazing for us to hear that during the lunch. And sometimes I watch audience in Victoria, and I have seen different ages from the youngest to the oldest one. And it's amazing that people are very interested. Actually, nobody is leaving the cinema. People are staying until the end of the movies, which is, I think, amazing because it doesn't happen at a lot of festivals.
Some secret wish for Cluj? For your time in Cluj?
Well, I've been here 3 times, but when I was younger in 2005, I did my tourist trip in Transylvania. So my tourist stuff was made 15 years ago. Maybe it's too old, but Yeah, nowadays I go to festivals either for business and watch films, either for tourism. But here, I'm here on the jury to do my job, and that's it. So I'm not always looking on the internet, what should I go see in Cluj, but yeah, I'd like to tell you that Cluj is amazing and I need to see all those churches, but I have some duties.
For me, it's the city and yes, the audience. It's true. The audience in Cluj is different than in other cities. Not only in Romania, but in Europe also.
Why? What is that?
I don't understand. It's like they want to see the film. It's a warm audience. They laugh when they should laugh. They don't when they shouldn't. I don't know. It's interesting. I can't explain it. So that's what I like in Cluj. I have always liked that.
Always.
Thank you very much for the time. Thank you. See you for the next.
Thank you.